has been for some time experiencing adverse weather conditions. I am joined today by the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, the Minister of National Security, and the Minister of Works and Transport, who are here to update the nation on the current state of play, as well as to inform us all as to what we can expect in the days to come. Let us move straight as we wait for media to continue joining this Zoom meeting and this virtual meeting. Let us move straight to Minister Faris Al-Rawi, who will lead off. Faris?
Thank you very much, Minister de Nobrega. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, of course, as the head of the Cabinet, has been leading a very aggressive monitoring of our situation. We come before you today in the combined forces that we stand. This is the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government as line authority in this kind of event system, together with the Ministry of Works and Transport, the Ministry of National Security. The Minister of Public Utilities is equally joined in, as is the Minister of Education. We do also have assistance coming from the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Housing. I've put that together to report to you where we are, what we are to expect, and what resources are available in this situation. So let's cut to the chase. We are coming towards the end of the hurricane season. However, we are experiencing significant rainfall. The Met Office has alerted that Trinidad and Tobago is in a low-level trough, and that is expected to come across Trinidad and Tobago and across the Windward over this weekend. This system is part of what they call El Niño Southern Oscillation, and it is also part of what they call the Madden-Julian Oscillation. What does that mean? Normally in the hurricane season, you're looking for events to come off the coast of Africa, to come across the stage. We are, however, since the period May to now, observing something called the Southern Storm Track. The Southern Storm Track means that the area just to the east and to the east of us, forgive us, coming in to the lower levels of Trinidad and Tobago, not the usual place, we have had a heavy amount of organized, sometimes disorganized systems, which brings a lot of rain. And ladies and gentlemen, you would have noticed rain in the period beginning Thursday into Friday with intermittent showers. Today into Saturday, we expect it to go into Sunday. And what the Met Office says is that depending upon the further conditions, we can expect rain as far into the next 5 to 6 days. Now, we've also been told by the Met Office that we can expect somewhere close to 6 inches of rainfall. What does that equal to? That equals to many gallons of rainfall if you work it out per square foot. And that means, in addition to the significant water levels already in the ground, already on the surface, we're going to expect more water. That means we are definitely going to experience significant flooding activity in the usual areas. In a little while, the Minister of Works and Transport will tell you about some of the areas that are affected, for instance, in Manzanilla, etc., what our swamps are looking like. But permit me to tell you a few things further. So far, we've been looking at our rivers. Now, as you know, we expect that with rainfall, obviously, we're monitoring high and low tide. Currently, tides are falling. Low tide is in fact at 11:49, and a couple minutes from now. The tide is going to rise again by 5:51 this evening. That means as rainfall comes in the evening while the tide is rising, we're going to expect the water to stay on surfaces. We have come to know that that means that the riverine flood alert is going to kick in because the water runoff is going to be delayed by the rising high tide as we get into the evening period this evening, when high tide then falls later in the night. So if it rains this afternoon, as it is expected, 80% chance that it will, you're looking at the grey skies right now, you can expect that we're going to have water. From a river level perspective, I can tell you the following. The Talparo River is 85% capacity. Diana River, 75% capacity. Perseverance Village, 75% capacity. Rupsing Road Bridge, 85% capacity. Carolina Bridge, it's overflowing at present. Those are all in the Couva Talparo Regional Corporation. In the Diego Martin Regional Corporation, the Diego Martin River is at 70%. The Maraval River is at 20%. In the Mayaro Regional Corporation, Guayari Pool River is at 96%. In the Pinal Debe Regional Corporation, we have an average being monitored somewhere around 60%. In the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, the North Oropouche River is at 75%. The Canupo River at 75%. In our sensor levels, where we have active monitoring of water, I can tell you the Aripa River is at 55%. Aruca is at 36%. The Caparo River is at 85%. Caroni is at 84%. El Carmen is at 83%. Now, Caroni has two aspects to it. The bamboo number 3 side, which is where we're talking about El Carmen. El Carmen feeds Caroni, that's at 83%. And if you look at the bamboo number 3 Caroni, that's at 84%. North Oropouche River level is at 75%. So, tide is falling. It's going to rise in the evening. More rain is going to come. We expect rain again overnight. We're definitely going to see it into tomorrow. We are also going to see, depending upon the system's organization in this southern track, we're going to see more rain for the next few days. This means, ladies and gentlemen, you're definitely going to have to prepare for flooding. What can I tell you in terms of what is on the ground so far? First of all 14 regional corporations, disaster management entities are in full gear. That means you can accept all of your sandbags and your assistance by contacting. We've pushed out the numbers. It's available on our websites. You'll see it on your WhatsApp chats. You can call into the disaster management units. At head office, at Rural Development Local Government, we feed into that network. We provide situational updates and we provide resources and materials. In addition to those 14 entities, the Ministry of Works and Transport, which will tell you a little bit more through the minister in a second, they are on site with stationary equipment in many locations. The Minister of National Security will tell you in a little while what the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force and what the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are doing. From the Rural Development Local Government perspective, I can tell you all of our municipal police function as eyes and ears, and they are physically on site, located in various locations, and they feed us in the reports. If anybody is in a difficulty, being stranded by water, in need of emergency assistance, you need only to reach out to your centers, the DMU numbers, the municipal police, any one of the emergency contact numbers, and we will coordinate the relief to come to you. During a time where you expect heavy weather, heavy water, it's important to take self-preparation. Lift your appliances out of danger. Make sure that your electricity is not live around water. Make sure that your valuables, etc., are managed. I can tell you so far, we've had flash flooding in Port of Spain. Abattoir area is currently with water across it. It is going slowly. Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo region. We've had confirmed reports of 10 flooded areas, 3 landslips. Diego Martin Regional Corporation, 1 landslip on Grapefruit Crescent in Maraval. Mayaro Regional Corporation, 1 landslip along the Manzanilla Road, which the Minister will speak to in a second, Minister of Works and Transport. We've dispatched trucks, excavators, backhoes on that area. We've had 9 flooded communities, and the disaster management units are on site there right now. We've had flooding in Biche, Plumitan, La Salle, etc., that general area. Sawa Laventille Regional Corporation, we've had 2 significant landslips. Quarry Drive, Chamfleur, the entire roadway is blocked at present. Lady Young Road before the lookout, we now have 6 landslips. We had 1 up to a little while ago, we're now up to 6. And the Minister of Works and Transport has placed equipment on site there. Remember, the clearing of landslips must be very carefully managed because you can't begin to clear to have more come down. So what we have to do is to assess, treat with an appropriate situation, allow for the water soil to be managed, and make sure that when we're moving and clearing roads that we don't cause further landslips. In the Sangre Grande Regional Corporation, we've had 3 flooded areas: Fishing Pond, Picton Road, Fleming Road. San Fernando City Corporation, we've had a landslip right there on Lady Hills Avenue. In the Tunapuna-Piarco Regional Corporation, we've had a landslip at Maracas Royal Road. We'd like to remind, with this amount of water in the soils already, with the significant amount of rainfall that we expect in the next few hours and over the days, it would be prudent to avoid taking treks up the North Coast Road into areas where you know that there is a risk of landslides. The soils are very water soaked. Now, this system, as we've been monitoring it, affects not only Trinidad and Tobago, it's affecting from Grenada, come right down into Guyana, etc. And therefore, we must prepare ourselves as best as we can into preparation zones. I'd like to tell you, as you're accustomed to knowing by now, when there is a significant amount of water and surface water, there is something called turbidity. What does it mean? Dirty water is in the surface areas. They go into our water catchment facilities at WASA. So at present, WASA has been affected by high turbidity, and Quarry Water Treatment Plant, Guanapo Water Treatment Plant, Matura Water Treatment Plant, North Oropouche Water Treatment Plant, La Pastora Water Treatment Plant, McDavid Intake, the further intakes at what we call in the LNN position, the Cora Water Treatment Plant, the Akono Water Treatment Plant, Kumuto Water Treatment Plant, Aripo Water Treatment Plant, all are having issues right now. Most of them, the screens are in need of cleaning, etc. You have to wait till the water turbidity goes down. You can't turn on the systems because what you're going to have is a shutdown. So what does this mean to people? We need to make sure that we conserve our water at this point. Water conservation is important because the supply can't be turned on until the mud clears up and the turbidity is managed. So please manage your water carefully and to arrange your structures. I'll end before I pass off to my colleagues now by saying that the cleanup operations are anticipated. To do that, we have the regional corporations that come in to lend assistance. We have CPEP. We have the ministries that lend assistance. We want to remind that flood relief, other areas are being coordinated through the government. Once the disaster management units are aware of the situation, we then coordinate the services with the Ministry of Social Development. Last thing I'll say, sorry I said it already, last thing, but really the last thing at this point. The Prime Minister has, of course, instructed our team to be in constant communication with the Minister of Education. The Minister of Education will monitor through our arrangements where we stand, what the conditions look like, what mobility is going to be, and during the course of tomorrow, we'll come back to the nation to speak to the issues of schools and how and why and when, if at all, we manage to go into schools on Monday. So in summary, folks, we need to expect significant water. We need to expect significant rainfall. We need to expect flooding. We need to take steps to assist ourselves. All of the disaster management units are on high alert. They're in the field. We will do our part, but it's imperative, pursuant to the Prime Minister's direct attention and instruction to us, his ministerial team, that we alert the population to take urgent steps. Please be careful on the roads. Minister of Communications.
Thank you so much, Minister Al-Rawi. Let's move on to Minister Rohan Sinanan now, who will give an update from the Ministry of Works and Transport. Minister Sinanan.
Thank you, Minister. As said by the Minister of Local Government, the Ministry of Works and Transport, we are out there, we have been mobilized. This is something that we have been doing for the last couple of months. However, what the chart basically shows us is that this could be one of the worst flooding we would have experienced for quite a while if the charts proves to be correct. There isn't much you can do once the water and the flooding is there. We have to, wait in some instances for the water to go down. What we want to urge citizens is that if you can avoid going on the road network, please do not go on the road network because it will complicate things for the movements of equipment and so, and you can be trapped in the flood waters. Please do not take it for granted that your area have not flooded in the past because this is unprecedented rainfall. The rivers and I've heard some of the figures from the Minister of Local Government, but those rivers are rising as we speak. So you might see a river at 80%, and within 10-15 minutes, it reaches to 100%. And even though the river might be at 80%, there are some areas that the river will breach, and that can trap you wherever you are. So if you can avoid going on the road network, please remain at home, secure your premises, and so the chart tells us that this could be a flood that is unprecedented for quite a while. I think it's a time without panicking anyone. We have to just prepare for the worst and hope for the best. The Ministry of Works we are out there. We have mobilized equipment, and so the team is visiting most of the rivers to see if there's any blockage that can be removed. Sometimes it's actually impossible to do that while the water is at that level, and so, but we will try our best to keep that water flowing so we could take advantage of the low tide. Being in a low tide does not mean that all the water is going to run off. The amount of water that is accumulated on the land for the last couple of months and the continuation of the rainfall, it is a challenge even for our water courses to get that water out. The St. Joseph River, I mean, it's really overflowing right now. That flows into the Caroni. And although the Caroni is pulling some water, the amount of water in the St. Joseph River, that entire part is actually underwater right now. And certain areas that you think would in the past did not get flooding, you can expect flooding in these areas. So what I can say is that let us all prepare ourselves that the flood may reach us in areas that it had not affected us in the past. And let's just be careful, stay off the road. I mean, the integrity of our infrastructure have been tested. But at the end of the day, as I said, this is unprecedented rainfall. And what is anticipated is flooding that in some areas that never really had flooding before. So we are out there and I mean, we're monitoring the entire situation and doing whatever we can do to bring back some level of normalcy once the rain eases up a bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's just go quickly to Minister Al-Rawi before we go on to Minister Hines. Faris, there's another update you need to give us?
Yes, thank you. I'd wish to thank the members of the local weather fraternity for pitching in. Obviously, all communications are welcomed. So I'm just rejoining to give a small clarification. Folks, you note that we're not under a storm watch. We're not under a hurricane watch. We're not under an organized system of the normal kind that would trigger things. What we're experiencing is significant amount of rainfall in a way that the Met Office has put out on to the structures. And I just want to say for the record that the Met Office has said that there is a low-level trough expected to cross Trinidad and Tobago and the Windward over this weekend. They say that with that trough, we're going to experience what you'll see as periods of cloudiness, light to moderate showers over varying areas, heavy shower thunderstorm in a few areas. This pattern is anticipated to continue into Monday. They then go on to say that because we're in the La Nina phase of ENSO, a system management that they call, that there are going to be major fluctuations in tropical weather systems and that we can expect precipitation and convection for the next 5 to 6 days. If we translate that, it says even though we haven't had the kind of warnings that we normally have for storms or organized systems, we are taking the caution to warn that we do expect significant flooding issues in a circumstance where people wouldn't normally expect it because there wasn't a trigger. So we're taking a precaution to involve these structures. So thank you to members of the weather fraternity for coming out. But what we are aware of, because of where the tide level is and where the water levels are, we expect to see significant problems. And from the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government and the Ministry of Works, the frequency of landslides that we're seeing right now with drizzles happening is a condition because of the amount of water in the soil. And therefore, we are aware of the need to alert the population to the fact that you have to be careful of landslides and you have to be careful of flooding. So this is very much taking a precautionary step. Again, the Prime Minister is taking careful note of these systems and is in active communication with our full team. May I return to you, please, Simon?
Thanks, Faris. Let's move now to Minister Fitzgerald Hines, who will give an update from the Ministry of National Security.
Thank you very much, Minister Dean Obriga. Thank you, colleagues. Speaking first as a member of Parliament representing people, I understand the implications of all that has been correctly stated for individuals, for families, for citizens, for business owners. This all adds up to serious dislocation, serious discomfort, loss of assets, furniture, appliances, fear, trauma, in some cases even the abandonment of homes, because I received 2 calls already for the morning, one where the homeowner was forced to abandon her home. So we do understand the implications of this for you as individuals, as I said, as families, and we deeply sympathize and empathize with you in all of this, and give you the assurance that we as a government, taking a whole of government and a whole of society approach, are standing by to provide whatever support and assistance that we must provide in these immediate circumstances. And following this, all of the programs, whether it is through the LSA of the Ministry of Housing, whether it's self-help, whether it is the roof grant here and there, because people have leaks in their roofs. I got a call from a constituent this morning regarding leaks, and this heavy rainfall is just exacerbating that. So we stand ready in all of this to support the citizens in this time of challenge. As for the Ministry of National Security, we host, of course, the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management, which is the coordinating agency for all of the operations in response, in mitigation of the effects of the flooding and the landslides as a result of these kinds of disastrous circumstances. So as a result, as Minister of National Security, I have been and continue to work very closely with my colleagues, the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, the Minister of Works and Transport, and all other ministers pertinent as it relates to responding to this and the mitigation of the effects of it. All the divisions of national security are in a state of readiness. The ODPM itself continue to monitor the situation as the overall coordinating agency and calling up and providing additional resources where necessary in any particular locality around the country. And the ODPM continues to work very closely with the disaster management units of all of the 14 regional corporations. So they continue to be on the job, performing this overall coordinating function as they are mandated to do. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is operating from their command center, as it were, monitoring the state of affairs, listening for signals from the coordinating agency, ODPM, and otherwise, and they are paying particular attention to the roadways to ensure that there's movement and that criminals, quite frankly, who will seek to capitalize and be opportunistic in these circumstances will not have their way, and the TTPS is positioned and ready to respond to these kinds of incidents in the protection of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. For the fire service, all stations of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service are on high alert and in a state of readiness, and in particular the land search and rescue teams are on standby to assist in getting persons out of harm's way, out of difficulty as might become necessary. And they are supported by elements of the Coast Guard with their dinghies and what have you, should that become necessary. The Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, the Engineer Battalion, is as well on standby, and they provide support when they are so summoned or called by the ODPM, when the disaster units, when the regional corporation, the Ministry of Works and Transport and other agencies are unable to cope with a particular situation, the Defense Force is going to be called upon, and they are in a state of readiness in this regard. So in conclusion, I would say the Ministry of National Security, understanding very clearly what our role and responsibility is in this, I give you the assurance we are in a state of readiness and will continue to provide the support that we must in this development, in this situation. Thank you very warmly.
Thank you so much, Minister Hines. Let us now go back to the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Minister Al-Rawi. Faris.
Thank you very much again, Simon. Ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of Public Utilities, Minister Gonzalez, is usually with us. He's out on the field right now, and he has confirmed, just by way of communication back into our team, that we will expect a riverine alert to come out, and that should be now something that you're going to expect. So we've gone from the river capacities. The Met Office is going to issue an alert on riverines. That means that you're definitely now in a position, we can say from this microphone now, that we're going to expect the significance of flooding. Minister Gonzalez has also confirmed that northeast Trinidad, northwest Trinidad for WASA and Tobago have the following issues. There are 12 facilities in northeast, and they are, with respect to Matura, Toco Balandra, Valencia, La Pastora in Lopino, McDavid Trace and Environs, Maracas St. Joseph, Santa Rosa Waterfield Malabar, El Dorado, Tacarigua, parts of Tunapona. These are the areas affected. River conditions are being assessed to commence cleaning works. So that means that the plants are going to be in downtime whilst the cleaning works go on, and they are literally monitoring the river levels as we speak. With respect to further parts of northeast, for Guanapo, which feeds parts of Arima, for North Oropuch, which has reduced production, and Kumuto, which feeds the Kumuto areas. The Arima is affected currently by power failures. The power failures are due to fallen branches on TNTEC lines, and we are clearing those as we speak. When we're looking at the reduced production at North Oropuch, that reduced production is as a result of the turbidity in the river. That's the muddy conditions. For Kumuto, works are in progress. We have a broken raw water main. So these are the incidences in northeast. In northwest, we have 5 areas which affect all of the north coast. That is Tyrico, Rincon, Las Cuevas, La Filette, and Blanchisseuse. River conditions are assessed. They are definitely now in the phase of cleaning. We have a report for Tobago coming from WASA. And again, this all comes directly from Minister Gonzalez, who is currently out on the field. We have 2 areas, Richmond, that's the facility location, and Highlands Road, those 2 facility positions. We are therefore in the Richmond feeding. We're seeing effects on Goodwood, Goldsboro, Pembroke, Glamorgan, Richmond, Belgarden, Kendall, Argyle, Roxborough, Betsy's Hope, and Louis D'Or. And we're also seeing Mason Hall and Mariah fed by Highlands Road. River conditions there are being assessed so that we can start the commencement of cleaning works there. So those things come directly from the Minister of Public Utilities and WASA. Again, I wish to thank. The other point that I'd like to address, coming in again live from our internal team, is the fact that we have sandbags definitely in circulation. Remember, even though we've distributed tens of thousands of sandbags in the very immediacy of the past weeks, etc., you need to make sure that you're blocking off areas if possible, and that you're therefore limiting the amount of water flow into your homes and other areas. So please, your DMUs, your corporations have sandbags, they have sand, you need to collect, please attend there. Last thing that we'll say, it is dangerous to cross waters or areas where you cannot see where you're going or where there is flash flooding. The protection of lives is a most important position for us. If there is any emergency that you need to report on, the fire services, the police service, the disaster management units, the municipal police, all of our agencies are out on full alert to lend you the assistance that you need. You just need to check for the numbers which we're pushing out and to reach out to us. Simon, I believe that Minister Sinanan has a further intervention to make. Thanks. Thank you.
And thank you, Minister. Just to reiterate about going on the road if it is not necessary. If you can stay off there, every minute we get landslips coming in and we have to move equipment from point A to point B. The less people on the road will make it a lot easier for us because we have to move heavy equipment in some cases. We have all our pumps and so operating at this point in time. However, because of the height of some of the rivers, you actually pump from the land into the river. But if the river is at that high, all you'll be doing is circulating the water. So all pumps are operating at this point in time. However, because of the height of the rivers in some areas, that will not bring the sort of relief that we expect them to bring. Again, I just want to urge everyone, if you can stay off the road, if you have to, do not drive through floodwaters because you really don't know if the infrastructure there is safe. We only know that once the water recedes, and we want to allow equipment to move from point A to point B in the shortest possible time because, every minute we have reports now of landslips because of the saturation of the soil. So, as the Minister of Local Government said, please don't drive through floodwaters. If you don't have to, please stay off the road. Allow the ministries to do and the agencies to do their job, and just move your household appliances to higher grounds if you can. We need to remember that there are areas that will flood that you don't normally have flooding. This is unprecedented rainfall. The rivers are already filled and the ground is saturated. So let us please be careful and allow the agencies and the different ministries to do what they are trained to do, and they are outside there to give that support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to the questions from media. As always, the rules of engagement apply. If you can raise your hand, keep your mic muted, raise your hand, we will come to you. You can ask your question and one follow-up question, and we will let you know who the next person up will be. So let us move initially to Priya Bihari. Priya, of course, we all know you, but again, for everyone, can you state your name and the media house that you represent? So Priya, let's go to you first.
Yes, good morning. I hope you all can hear me. Priya Bihari, AGP News. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Morning. I just want to find out what immediate action would be taken if people are under floods. Can they call? Is there numbers to call? And what can be done? And are there any shelters that people could go to at this point in time? Thank you. And this question, can we say how many incidents of flooding and landslips we have? Just a total number. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your three questions. With respect to contact numbers, we have them in wide circulation and we'll continue to put them into further wide circulation. So they'll be going out online, at websites, by WhatsApp, in the usual way to ensure that people know where they can call. The line of communication is to the disaster management units, which are in the corporation. So you're calling your regional corporation, San Fernando City Corporation, Port of Spain City Corporation, Pinal Debe, wherever you may be. That's the first point. The second point is that we have shelters, and shelters are on constant clean and arrangement to be activated when necessary. We are in a state of preparation for those. We've not had a request for utilization of them, so we have not yet triggered the use of shelters, but they are available. As we get the information as to whether we need it, we're going to put that into proper circulation. Lastly, prior, I spent about 10 minutes listing every bit of the information on the floods, etc. that we had. Perhaps you tuned on a little bit late. We'll take the precaution to publish a situational report which will identify those things so that the media could have access to some data. So thank you for triggering that. We will push that out by way of a further release coming from the ministry.
Prior, you have any other questions? Okay, let's move on to Alicia Biche.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm getting a lot of bad feedback, so I will try to push forward with the question. I wanted to find out, do we have a plan in place in the event that we do need to have a mass evacuation of any type, in any of these areas where, because we are being urged to prepare for the worst. We saw what happened a few years in Greenvale, and you have had other areas where, like, it was a Grand River, where you sometimes have water levels getting up to very, very dangerous heights, sometimes 5 feet and over. So I wanted to know whether we have a mass evacuation plan in place in the event that we do need one. And when should somebody really call for evacuation? Because sometimes these water levels rise really quickly, and it might be a bit difficult to get into certain areas. When do you actually call and say that I need to evacuate my home? And what if it's multiple people needing to evacuate a particular area? What do we do then? What plan do we have in place? Thank you.
Thank you. As Minister Hines indicated, we have a hierarchy of structures. So in the management of situations like this, the first responder is the local government end, which is why I'm team leading this morning with all of us present. The local government end is your corporations. So you reach out to that. On top of us is a structure called the ODPM, which is the Office of Disaster Preparedness. They have general arrangements in place, but they step in when it gets really bad, and we're not there yet. Now, I'd like to be careful. In us approaching the nation right now, we realize that we're on a weekend. We realize that people are enjoying their World Cup experience and doing their usual things, and we're just seeing grey skies and light rainfall. And then we're getting reports, intermittent reports across social media where people are seeing flooding, etc. But the country's become a little bit numb to these issues because there are so many incidents of flooding because of the weather patterns around the world right now. So we're taking this precaution right now to tell people, listen, you may not have heard that there's a storm approaching or a hurricane approaching, but we want you to be aware of what we know. The soil conditions, the risk of landslides, where we're seeing atypical flooding, because there are areas that have not had flooding before that are seeing flooding right now. And in those circumstances, we don't want to be caught napping. And therefore, we are not at the stage of anything resembling mass evacuation, etc., which triggers into your other aspect of your question. When do you know that you should call for help? Self-assessment. You'll know when it becomes a little bit too difficult for you, but we can assure you that we will be monitoring the situation so that the whole of picture will be communicated back. If and when we need to take that step, the ODPM will step in. Minister Hines will then take lead at that point. We'll do the coordination in the way. So we want to assure you that we have structures in place for that. The point is right now, Trinis, Tobagonians, sometimes it might miss you, you might not be paying attention. And because of where we are right now and what we're seeing, we're asking you, hold on, don't go on the roads, don't go for a drive up on the north coast right now because we know that the soils are really heavy and we're seeing slippage. Don't underestimate the slow creep that can come and catch you. So let's just be prepared. Thank you.
Alicia, you have one more question that you would like to ask?
Yes, I do. I wanted to ask Minister Sinanan whether, we got the warnings for the North Coast Road, but we saw what happened in Manzanilla, on the Manzanilla Road. Is that road safe to traverse?
Alicia, no, the road is actually closed, so nobody should be traversing the road. The road is actually barricaded on both ends. There's still a lot of water in the swamp. That swamp is almost 200, in excess of 200,000 acres of land, and that we have to drain. That swamp has to naturally drain off before we assess the road. The road is actually closed. So, and some points in that swamp you might have 6-7 feet of water, 223,000 acres. So you can imagine the kind of water there. Alicia, one of the things that I want to take this opportunity to talk about on social media, to ask people to desist from posting things that is not real and trying to to create a panic in the population. There's a video circulating now about a bus that broke in two. I just spoke to the chairman of the PTSC, and he said that is not so. There's a problem with just the joining of the bus. The bus is on the compound and is driving to the garage. It is not that the bus burst in two or anything like that, has been circulated on social media. At this time, it does not make sense trying to panic the population with fake news. So for those social media, Mr. Hines describes them, this is not the time to panic the population with fake news. Thank you.
Just to join on that point, folks, there's a consequence to fake news. Not only does it create panic and fear. For instance, at rural development, local government, we have 771 municipal police out there reporting second by second on my phone, literally, to make sure that we verify everything as news that is real or fake. So you're causing the occupation of 771 people to simply check wickedness. And that just does not make any sense. Because we take that approach, and we have, under this arrangement that we have engaged over the last few months, the last 8 months in particular, because we've taken that approach to go and assess everything for ourselves, we've managed to dampen a lot of the fake news. But really and truly, it does not help to just be wicked. So please desist.
Thank you for that, Faris. Let's move on to Terry Ann Brown Campbell now, please.
Morning. Regarding public transport, many essential workers will have to still continue to come out. Will the buses and the water taxi continue to work during this period of time?
And the answer to that is yes, as far as possible. As a matter of fact, I'm having a meeting with the PTSC in a short while. We have to maintain the connectivity through PTSC because in some areas only the bus might be able to traverse. So unless it is absolutely impossible for these the vessels and the buses to operate, we will want to keep them in service. At the end of the day, it's a weekend. So there's not that much people traveling to and from work, but I am going to coordinate with the PTSC should, in case we have to evacuate people, move people, we would have the PTSC and so on standby, because the buses are much higher than the regular vehicles, and they should be able to go through some of the flooding. We will try to keep these services operating for as long as we can.
Thank you. Terry Ann, do you have a follow-up question?
It's, regarding the areas that normally don't flood, what areas can expect they might see some flooding that they might not expect, because people who normally don't get flooded, they don't look out for that, they just go along as usual. So how can we alert them?
So both Minister Sinan and I will attempt that. Basically, remember, we've got high tide at 5:30. Odd time this afternoon, 5:41 p.m., close to 6. So the tide is gonna be rising. It's at low tide right now. The tide is low. We're gonna get some water runoff, but we're expecting more rain. We have just issued, Met Office has issued the riverine alert, which means we know that the rivers are full and that the tributaries coming out of that are equally full. Even though we're at low tide right now, the percolation and runoff factor is not an immediate one. It just doesn't disappear, as Minister Sinanan said a little while ago. So we can expect in these scattered showers where we don't have a storm and we don't have a hurricane, but we have riverine alert level and we know more rain is definitely hitting us today, tomorrow, and the days ahead, we can expect that areas that traditionally don't have flooding and who once in a blue moon do, or once in a 10-year do, we can expect that to happen. So everybody should expect. That means if you know that you've had a risk of it, please take advantage of having sandbags and other structures to get yourself ready. I should tell you that many of the contractors who are volunteer contractors with the corporations, etc., have also been alerted, and we wish to thank publicly the Contractors Association for lending us the assistance that they are. I believe that Rohan would like to pick up part of this answer too as well. So let me ask you to join in.
Yeah, sure. As said before, I think we all have to be prepared for some manner of disaster. Now, you might be living on a hillside and the anticipation, well, here can't flood, but then what about the landslips? You can be affected by severe landslips because on the hillside, flooding may not be possible, but there are a lot of landslips that can happen. I think throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we have to prepare for different types of disaster once you get this sort of weather. Flooding, I can tell you where I live, we have not had any flooding there, but I left seeing the water rising very, very high. We have to be prepared in areas where you don't traditionally get flood. The water can reach you there because the rivers are very high. We have a lot of rain anticipated to come within the next 24, 48 hours. And that you couple that with the landslips, then that can pose a problem. So if you feel that you can't be flooded out and you're living on a hillside, you have to be prepared for things like landslips and so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Sinan. Before we move on, there is a point that needs to be made. We acknowledge the fact that not everyone is available online. Not everyone can get this information online. TTT will be running a ticker tape, will be continually posting those important contact numbers for the ODPM, regional corporations, DMUs, etc. And of course, we will ask all media houses, especially during this time, to also do that, to continually inform the population as to what these contact numbers will be, so that persons, if they are in difficulty, can reach out because the information is available to them. Thank you very much. Let us now move on to, I believe it's Miss Pagu. I'm not sure, but I believe it's Miss Pagu. If we could move to you now.
Yes, Pagu is correct. I'm from the Trinidad Newsday. My question is regarding a statement made by the Prime Minister, a national alert statement. Was his source of information solely from official agencies, state official agencies, or was it from other sources? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I alluded at the beginning of this conference, and as did Minister of Communications, our team assembled from time to time, as we've come to you in media conferences, is always managed by the office and eyes and ears of the Prime Minister paying attention. I can tell you that every one of us here in this room with you today and on air, the Prime Minister has been in touch with us, and the Prime Minister has been leading the exercise to make sure that his ministerial team goes to work. The notice which has been produced by the Office of the Prime Minister is one which comes from official information and, of course, from the general information that we provide as his line ministers to him. And therefore, the Office of the Prime Minister has triggered. You'll notice that this is one of these occasions where the Office of the Prime Minister itself has put out a trigger. It's because we're taking it that seriously. So to answer your question, it's all information from multiple sources, from all the official sources, from ministerial sources, and sometimes we just give live oral updates to the Prime Minister. He is in constant communication with us. I'll say this in a very light-hearted way. I sometimes worry that the Prime Minister doesn't sleep because he communicates with us at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and then 9 a.m. again, and I just can't explain how somebody lives on that little sleep. Yeah, and as Minister Sinan is saying, of course, we pay attention to international news sources as well, if that's perhaps where you were going.
Ms. Pagu, if you have a follow-up question, you can do so now.
No, I'm okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go back to Prior. Prior?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon again. I just want to find out, Minister Al-Rawi, as you say, as we go into the evening and the tides will rise, we'll have a high tide. Can we expect a more rapid response, more resources from the authority as we go into the night? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Just to remind you, all resources are on the field as we speak. Shelters are being cleaned in the event that it happens and we have to trigger. ODPM is in gear and structure, Met Office, which feeds us information, ODPM, which feeds us information. All of the disaster management units are on the field. The municipal police are on the field, the fire services, the TTPS, the TTDF, Ministry of Works and Transport, as I reported for Minister Gonzalez. All of WASA and TNTEC are out there, chainsaws buzzing, tractors moving, engineers on site. So all resources are out there. Please remember, how we respond depends upon the conditions. So getting to somebody who needs medical attention is something that can be done during flood positions. But obviously we can't start mopping up and cleaning up while the water is still high in certain areas. Nor can we get into fast-flowing water to remove obstacles until that subsides. And if something washes from upstream and comes downstream and wasn't there before, there's a lot of practical common sense that you have to apply to this situation. So just to assure you that all resources are out on the field. We ministers are out on the field as well. I can speak for all of us. We've been out on the field since 6 a.m. this morning. And in our reports to the Prime Minister and in his own paying attention to this situation, he triggered this conference to say, let's make sure that people are not caught napping.
Prior, if you have a follow-up question, now is the time.
Minister, some people would say that that's why you pay the fire service, these emergency responders for to go in this kind of emergency situations and rescue people. And I'm asking this in the context of what's happening now with the pirate inquiry, with the divers. I mean, there seems to be that people may think that the authorities may not act when they're required in an emergency situation. Can you guarantee that they will try their best to help people if they can?
Prior, that was such a far stretched connection to
it was not, Minister. It's just thinking of people in terms of trying to help people who are under stress and in emergency situation.
Sure. So Minister de Nobrega has taken lead of an observation that has come to make sure that the numbers are known. Some people are not on social media, etc. So we're going to ask our sister stations, etc., to run ticker tapes and other positions so that people will know the numbers to call. Secondly, there are multiple resources in the field. Whilst information coordination is critical, the emergency numbers are there for the ambulance and fire and other services, and we'll give you the opportunity. We'll give you the assurance that we'll do our very best to make sure that there is full responsiveness. I don't want to go on to too many hypotheticals, which is where I was going in my initial answer to you prior, because I didn't see it appropriate to connect a disaster management and a pipeline with Delta Force pressure with a response by the fire services. I just didn't see that connection. I think Minister Sinanan wants to jump in.
Yeah, and I mean, prior, that is the reason why we're having this conference here now. What we are trying to inform the population is basically, if you're in a low-lying area, that you will get flooded. We are telling you, look, these low-lying areas, you will get flooding. We're asking you to, in some, move to higher ground, secure your things. And so don't wait for the disaster to reach your doorstep. And then, you expect that, look, okay, I had the early warning. I didn't use it. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I need somebody to come now and help me. Even in the developed countries, before the disaster, they tell you is a mandatory evacuation. We don't have that here in Trinidad. So we're hoping that everyone work with us, identify. You must know the area that you're living in. You're accustomed getting flood. You know the height of the water will come there. What we are saying, if you need help, we are there to help you. But let us not wait until that happens, and then you put other people's lives at risk. But we are there to support anybody now who really is in need of help. But we all have to do this thing together. If we are telling you now that, look, take heed of what could happen going forward, and let's try our best to move to higher grounds to secure, and the government will do its part, but obviously the citizens have to do their part as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Sinanan. We are starting to wrap up now, but I do say Miss Biche is on with her hand up. So, Alicia, let's go to you.
Yes, I just have a quick question for Minister Al-Rawi. I noticed that you mentioned in terms of all of the different municipal police and stuff that are reporting back to you and verifying information and that kind of thing. Do you have, or is there a direct correspondence with the different councillors on the ground, with the chairman of the corporation, mayors, and so on, in terms of real-time reporting to the ministry as to what is happening on the ground?
Thank you for the question. Yes, so we have multiple layers of connection that we've built out. 1, WhatsApp chats. 2, email form confirmations. 3, situational reports that come every 3 hours latest and sometimes instantaneously. That's divided into a direct communication network, all mayors and chairmen, all CEOs, all disaster management units, all municipal corporations, head office contact. Then we have the interministerial arrangements which do exactly the same. And then we have the governmental and feeding agency arrangements which do the same. So the reason why I'm able to literally give you at the microphone updates is because it gets fed into a system immediately. We have a back office team that sits down and prepares the report, so we know how to deploy resources. Each of the ministers coordinate with each other. So if it's something beyond our capabilities at local government, Ministry of Works and Transport is there, and vice versa. We call in national security, we call in fire services, we call in all of the agencies. It's how we're able to deploy the assets, because we have an actual situational room. At rural development, there's a command center. We monitor all of the systems online and on camera. We have a team of people that put the reports together, and then we feed them in for action across the ground. Perhaps you're giving me an opportunity to very soon in the future invite you in to see what the network actually looks like and how we've built it out. It's a big part of the local government reform, and this is the critical aspect.
Okay. So let me thank Alicia for that last question. We are bringing this press conference to an end. I want to thank everyone who has joined, particularly the members of the media who took the opportunity to utilize the press conference to get information, to ask pertinent questions, and to get that information into the public domain. Can I thank the ministers who have joined us today? I just want to tag on to what Minister Al-Rawi, Minister Hines, and Minister Sinanan have all said. We are in a period of unprecedented, of excessive rainfall that has been continually falling on the country. We do have landslides that are a result of saturation of soil. We do have waterlogged river courses, and there's a reality to that. All arms of government are working together to bring relief both now and to plan for anything that may come in the future. But now more than ever is a time for the nation to act as their brother's keepers. That means not taking the opportunity to utilize the situation for either fun or wildness in a very anxious time for many in the population, but also be your brother's keeper. Look out for the old, the infirm, the sick in your community. If they need help, now is the time to lend that help. Reach out to your DMUs, to your local government representatives, to make sure that we get through this pressing time as a nation together. Thank you everyone who has joined, and we will come back to the nation when it is necessary to do so. Thank you.
Whether wet or dry season, hazards can strike without warning, causing you or your family to quickly evacuate. You may not have the time to grab the essentials. Be sure to have your grab-and-go bag in easily accessible locations. Here are the top 7 categories that should be included and tailored to your family's need. 1. Non-perishable food items, water and utensils.